heart of Germany's strategy was a machine considered unbreakable, the Enigma. Each keystroke set off a cascade of motion, rotors turning, circuits rerouting, lights whispering a letter back. To the operators, it was routine. To the Allies, it was a puzzle.
Order to depose fire islands, messages, new systems, and exoelectrics. Every message, from submarine orders to battlefield commands, flowed through layers of encryption thought to be impossible to decipher. The Allies intercepted thousands of German transmissions, yet understood none. Cracking Enigma became a matter of survival.
Enigma scrambled letters through a system of rotating wheels, plugs, and circuits, creating over 100 quintillion possible settings.
German forces sent tens of thousands of encrypted messages each day, each one protected by a fortress of mathematics. In rooms like these, operators worked around the clock, feeding rotors, striking keys, and stacking page after page of ciphered text. To an outsider, it was gibberish. To the Reich,
as the war escalated, the pressure on Allied intelligence reached overwhelming levels.
Hidden in the English countryside, Bletchley Park became the home of a secret mission unlike any in history.
The recruits were an unlikely army. Mathematicians, linguists, chess champions, and even crossword puzzlers. They arrived with suitcases, notebooks, and board games, their minds every bit as sharp as the blades of the ships they would one day help to guide. Brought together by a war of wits, they were here to turn thought.
But the first breakthrough came from Poland, whose cryptologists shared vital Enigma knowledge before their country fell. Even with this advantage, decoding Enigma remained a monumental challenge. At the center of the mission was a brilliant mathematician, Alan Turing. Night after night, he filled page after page with ideas, schemes for a machine that could think faster than any human mind. Each line of ink brought him a step closer to unraveling the enemy's most guarded secret.
Alongside him worked Joan Clark, a crypt analyst whose brilliance rivaled the best minds at Bletchley.
Turing designed the bomb, a machine capable of testing hundreds of Enigma settings every minute. Each drum mimicked a rotor from the German cipher, and rows of them worked in concert, eliminating impossibilities in seconds. Engineers tuned, rewired, and watched.
Then, the moment arrived. Enigma messages began to reveal their secrets.
Convoy sailing tonight, 2200 hours. U-boat patrols north of Bergen.
These decrypts turned the tide of the Battle of the Atlantic, saving thousands of lives.
But their victories remained classified. Their sacrifices unspoken, even to their families.
When the war ended, the world celebrated, while the codebreakers quietly returned to ordinary lives.
Decades passed before their achievements were finally revealed to the public. Falion, Matheson, Beveridge, Snug 7th. They reached a purpose.
Their work laid the foundation for modern computing and cryptography, shaping our world today.
Clear the deck, move it! Plane ready for spotting, Captain. Straps secure, Lieutenant. Good hunting. Thanks. Clear the prop now. Kane, they're everywhere!
I see him. Taking the rear zero now. Parker, eject! Get out, Parker! Hold on, back there. I'm trying to stabilize. Mayday! Mayday! We're hit!
As you can see on the chart, the destroyer is currently positioned here. Our objective is clear. Neutralize the threat by 0600 hours.
Cut the engine now! Shock the wheels, let's go, move it!
I swear he nearly jumped out of his skin back there.
Shut it, man, he's listening!
Vector 3M, tighten up. We have contact.
Look at the size of that plume, sir! All right, investigate. Move in closer.
I'm hit. I'm going down.
Так пусть же красная, сжав штыки свои, беспощадный нанесет удар.
They're German. Blue Squadron, hit the convoy now. Red and yellow, divert to the airfield. Go, go, go!
Hooray! Look at the planes! Wait, what are they doing? They're diving! Take cover! Load the next clip, quickly! Elevation set, keep firing!
We are airborne. I see the enemy. Engaging.
They got him! He's going down! I can't hold it! Farewell, comrades! Ceasefire! Ceasefire! Hold your fire now! Damn it! Ceasefire!
Get him on the stretcher, quickly! This one needs a tourniquet now. We must move.
They were brothers! And they fell by mistake.
By April 1945, Berlin was no longer a city.
It was a cratered battlefield.
Berlin's defenders were exhausted and outnumbered, but the momentum of the Soviet advance was unstoppable. Every street became a defensive line. The remaining Berlin defenders, exhausted and outnumbered, struggled to prepare for what was coming.
The battle for Berlin was a brutal maze of fire and concrete.
Commanders struggle to keep their units together in the chaos! Forward! Move! Keep moving!
Some German units fought desperately, even when defeat was certain.
The civilians, Berlin, have become a nightmare.
Families clung to life underground as the city above them burned. Above the bunker, the Reich Chancellery lay in ruins. Hitler and his advisors were sealed beneath the collapsing capital.
The Reichstag was more than a building. It was a symbol, and both sides knew it.
At last, the Soviets reached the roof. On May 8th, the guns finally fell silent.
The fall of Berlin ended the deadliest conflict in human history. Its ruins remain a reminder of what must never happen again. In the summer of 1943, on the vast fields of Western Russia, Germany launched a final gamble on the Eastern Front.
Hitler believed one great offensive could turn the tide. His generals prepared a massive pincer operation.
But the Soviets knew the attack was coming. They built layers of trenches, minefields, and anti-tank traps, stretching hundreds of kilometers.
At dawn on July 5th, the German assault roared to life. Artillery, tanks, and aircraft carrying toward the Soviet lines.
The opening collisions were brutal. The fields of Kursk erupted in fire.
Germany unleashed its newest weapons, Tiger tanks. Heavily armored, deadly at long range.
Caught between armor and artillery, Soviet infantry fought desperately to hold the line.
As the battle intensified, tank duels moved to point-blank range.
Above the battlefield, aircraft from both sides clashed in deadly swarms.
Despite early gains, the Germans slowed. Their tanks bogged down, their losses mounted, and Soviet reinforcements arrived.
On July 12th, near Prokhorovka, the largest tank battle in history erupted, hundreds of tanks colliding at point-blank range.
With their offensive bleeding to a halt, German forces had no choice but to withdraw.
Kursk ended Germany's last hope for victory in the east.
After Kursk, the Red Army pushed the invaders back relentlessly, all the way to Berlin.
In May 1940, Allied forces in France found themselves pushed back to the sea. The German advance forced hundreds of thousands of Allied troops into a narrow coastal pocket. With no way forward, they turned to the sea. Day after day, soldiers waited on the open beach, exposed, unsure when rescue would arrive. Despite exhaustion, Allied units worked together to maintain order and prepare for evacuation.
As the situation grew urgent, Britain launched Operation Dynamo, an extraordinary plan to rescue its stranded army.
Ships alone could not save everyone. Thousands of ordinary citizens volunteered their small boats to help bring the soldiers home. The little ships crossed the channel, heading straight toward Dunkirk to help rescue stranded troops. Evacuation started slowly. Soldiers boarded warships and civilian boats whenever the sea allowed.
Units took turns moving from the beach to the waterline, working with remarkable discipline despite the pressure. For many, the journey home was tense, but hopeful. Each mile brought them closer to safety.
Rescued troops reached England exhausted but alive. Volunteers greeted them with warmth and relief.
Operation Dynamo continued for days, saving more people than anyone believed possible.
In the end, more than 338,000 troops escaped. What could have been a disaster.
The Dunkirk evacuation was not a victory, but it was a rescue that changed the course of history.
Before sunrise on June 6, 1944, thousands crossed the English Channel into history, men bound for a beach they'd never forget.
They carried maps and messages home. Ordinary lives held in trembling hands as the craft lurched toward shore.
Sands of Normandy, smoke and fire blurred the line between fear and duty.
The team's commanders searched the horizon, making split-second choices that shaped the campaign.
Behind the front lines, medics worked without rest, small acts of care amid immense loss.
Airborne troops fell through the dawn, scattered, isolated, but essential to the mission.
Though Joan stabbed, he was a friend. Civilians watched war sweep their streets. Lives interrupted. Courage quietly sustained.
Against engineers built temporary harbors, an ingenious lifeline for the invasion.
Low beaches and hedgerows. Steel pushing inland.
Comrades leaned on one another, bonds forged in the fiercest moments. To what require yet, or ain't to hate. That was not when I'm primed. In front of these was fortifications loomed. Concrete barriers ready for the Allied tide.
The field signals kept armies coordinated. Quiet work as critical as steel.
These fallen records, leaving full of land. The Bokash turned fields into a maze. Every hedge a new threat.
Plans shifted constantly. Small decisions with enormous consequences. A river too wide, a hill too steep, a road that might not exist by dawn. Every line we drew risked hundreds of lives, and the ink was never dry. We prayed we were choosing the right direction.
Victory relied on supplies, endless convoys feeding the front.
Letters carried hope, fragile lifelines across an ocean. No damage on his own track. Stayed sewn for a couple of defense. Defenders watched the same horizon, braced for the inevitable.
Even in war, small lives mattered. Dogs, medics, civilians supporting survival. Night operations carved openings. Silent steps shaping daylight victories.
At him, he wants to the Republic and Americans, the token seal. All the British, were nine. Zodice was Bayendor. The cost was counted in quiet rows. Sacrifice remembered. Corrections. Back home, women powered the war effort, keeping armies moving.
Maps told the story. Territory reclaimed, inch by inch. Liberation restored more than land. It restored safety.
War ran on improvisation. Small tools sustaining massive effort.
If we slip the boats past the jetty here, the tide will carry them under the cliffs.
And we light the signal from the grain silo, they'll have 5 minutes to land.
That's the window.
These are the coordinates. Memorize them.
Local resistance and Allied forces shared risks, multiplying the invasion's strength.
Hoofbeats. Time.
Fields of names remind us what was given and what cannot be returned.
The push inland carried a promise, liberation inching forward. Mile by mile, through fields that had waited for years, the columns pressed on, engines drumming like a heartbeat. Ahead lay towns still under shadow, but with the sun breaking through the clouds.
Dawn after D. Day marked the beginning. A new day earned at a heavy price.
Dawn settles over Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. The water lies still, reflecting the battleships at anchor like mirrored steel. Sailors begin their routines, footsteps soft on wooden piers, the air light with salt and the smell of coffee from the galleys.
For a decade, tensions had been rising as Japan expanded aggressively across East Asia. In 1931, its army seized Manchuria, setting up the puppet state of Manchukuo. Fighting crept down the Great Wall, and in 1937, full-scale war erupted in China, with Shanghai, Nanjing.
Japan's military leaders believed conflict with the United States was unavoidable.
Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto designed a bold strike meant to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet in one decisive blow.
Six aircraft carriers quietly crossed the Pacific, preparing for a surprise attack.
At dawn, radar operators detected incoming aircraft, but the warning was mistaken for friendly planes.
With KA on hunt, their route brought them low over the mountains, hidden until the last moment.
At 7:55 a.m., the attack on Pearl Harbor began.
catastrophic explosion tore through the USS Arizona, killing over 1,000 sailors instantly.
Sailors scrambled to find cover as bombs and torpedoes rained down.
Nearby, the USS Oklahoma capsized within minutes. As torpedoes ripped open her flank, the great battleship rolled helplessly onto her side, trapping hundreds below deck. Sailors scrambled for daylight, leaping into the harbor amid oil, fire, and falling debris. For many, it was the only way.
Low-flying torpedo planes targeted the battleships anchored tightly together.
Within minutes, Battleship Row was engulfed in flames and smoke. American gunners fought back with every weapon they could bring online. Airfields across Oahu were bombed to prevent any American response. At Hickam, rows of bombers and fighters burned where they sat. Hangars were ripped open, engines gutted, and crews scrambling through fire and smoke. The attack was sudden, overwhelming, striking at the...
The government have claimed armed plenty of readiness before. It gave us of the ships until the second wave of bombers struck soon after, targeting remaining ships and air bases. Closer-handed or Hayati-Nogli and heroism. Doctors and corpsmen worked tirelessly to treat the wounded. By 9:45 a.m., the attack had ended, leaving devastation across the harbor.